We are live. It is Tuesday. We have finally made it through the offseason. It is week one of the 2024 NFL season. Bleav in Panthers, Jonathan Stewart, Schuyler, Callihan, Desmond Johnson. Let's just get into it. Let's go.
Jonathan Stewart gets hit, fights for more yardage. Stewart to the mouth of the goal line. Touchdown!
Wow, that's just pure Stewart right there.
That's a big-time run by Jonathan Stewart.
Welcome to Bleav in Carolina Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Do you believe? Rate and subscribe the show on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Video available weekly at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Do you believe?
And welcome into Bleav in Panthers here on the Bleav Podcast Network, presented by Bet Online. Desmond Johnson in the house with you with the Carolina Panthers Sports Illustrated beat writer Schuyler, Callihan, and the Panthers' all-time leading rusher in Jonathan Stewart. You can catch us on a variety of platforms, audio-wise on the Bleav Podcast Network, and of course, all major podcast platforms. The video is available via Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio, or our Facebook Watch, or the Bleav in Panthers Instagram channel. If you are watching this currently right now, do us a solid. Share the link, share it on X, share it on Twitter, share it on Instagram, so we can get as many live folks streaming as possible. It's open mailbag since it's week one. You'll be able to chime in and participate on the show, and we've got a loaded show for you. I'll get into what we're going to do in just a bit, but I want to get this out from Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football, from preseason NFL to college kicking off. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads when the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or on one with over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use promo code Bleav, BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet-Online, where the game starts. And where we start is a rundown of what we'll be tackling here as we preview week one, Panthers versus Saints. We're going to get into the second episode of Camp Confidential. If you haven't seen it, it's on the Panthers YouTube channel. It felt like it was very heavy Dave Canales, very Canales-centric episode, so we'll get into that and our thoughts. The biggest NFL storylines heading into the 2024 season, each of us picked one. We'll all debate and discuss that. You can debate it with us as well in the comment section on Facebook, Twitter, and X. I Bleav the Instagram comment section shows up as well. And then, of course, Panthers versus Saints, 1 o'clock on Fox this upcoming Sunday. Panthers, 3 keys to victory. Each of us picked a key that we feel like the Panthers need to accomplish to come out 1-0 this week. Before we get into all that, though, what's up, fellas? We made it. We finally got here. We're finally out of the offseason, a crazy one at that. What's the vibes going into week one here? Everybody's 0-0.
Sky's the limit.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Sky is the limit, if you know.
Like, first of all, I'm digging the shirt that you got on, Stu. I like that.
Yeah,
I
got the 2015.
Yeah, I remember that shirt. I like that shirt.
Vibes here.
I don't know, man. I'm starting to. Is it just me, or am I starting to see a little bit of the tide of people kind of going, can the Panthers surprise in the NFC South? I'm seeing that pop up more and more.
Hey, Schuyler, stay where you at. Okay, I want you to just stay where you at. Schuyler's been hating.
Nobody knows.
Everybody that had a losing record last year is the team to watch out for.
That's true. That is true. Everybody's the next Houston.
Everybody's feeling good at this point in the year because no games have been played.
Yeah.
I can speak to this with West Virginia last week. Everyone was picking West Virginia to upset Penn State, the home atmosphere, and all the returning talent they had coming back, and they just came out and looked absolutely flat. Now, they're still going to have a good year, but they just didn't come to play Saturday. Hopefully that's not the same case for the Panthers, but regardless, it's a 17-game season. Whatever happens in week one doesn't mean it's going to be an indicator for what's going to happen in the preceding 16 games. So just relax, one game at a time. And, Stu, you've probably heard this a million times. The biggest improvement you see is when a team goes from week one to week two.
Yeah.
It's going to be wild. If the opening of the college football season was any indicator, it's going to be crazy.
Florida State lost again last night.
I know. Like I'm going to ask this later on my show. I have a show at 12:30 live, and I'll have David Glenn on, who's a statewide known sports talk host, but he's also a lawyer. And I've always asked him questions about the Clemson, Florida State, ACC thing or whatever. And in my head, I'm like, doesn't it hurt Clemson and Florida State's cases about being the most powerful brands in the ACC? If they can't win games, if they can't win anything, Clemson refuses to use the portal. I don't know why, but they refuse to use it. And it's starting to show. Like, it's really starting to get sad.
Yeah.
Like, whatever Clemson is doing. And then Florida State, I don't understand. Like, I know they flipped like the whole team pretty much through the portal, but that's how they built the team last year. And now they're 0-2. Doesn't that hurt your whole we run the ACC? We're the reason why the ACC is valuable because we're Clemson and Florida State, and y'all are 0-1 and 0-2 after after the first 10 days of the season. So
all they're doing is running to the cold tubs right now.
And then the SEC had like 5 teams, I think, won by like 60 points or something in the opening week, which was like a record. Your boys, Oregon, in the Big Ten, they might be like the second, third best team in the country.
Yeah, and we had a little surprise game there because we played a FCS team in Idaho, Vandals, and they're not a bad team, but they are an FCS team, and if we are supposed to be the dominant Oregon team that everyone's expecting, 24-17, whatever the score was, that ain't really good. That's not a good first showing. It's more so of like, there was a lot of flashes of good things, but we didn't finish any drives.
It's basically like college preseason week 1. Right. I mean, it kind of feels like
just got to figure out how to finish drives. Got to the pivotal moments. Third down, can't jump offside. Second down, and you just picked up 7 yards, right? 3rd and 3, can't jump offsides.
No, can't do that. Can't do it. Just can't do it.
Start.
Oh, a perfect example. Forest City Kitty, who's participating in the stuff here through the YouTube channel. Clemson lost to the best team in college football. What are you talking about? I'm not saying Clemson was supposed to win the game, but y'all could score more than 3 points. You're Clemson. Like, seriously, like, that's what I'm talking about. There's a talent drain going on.
It's the same thing in some regards as West Virginia. Like, no one, I mean, personally, like, I never expected West Virginia to win the game, but being competitive is reasonable.
That's all we ask.
Or Clemson were competitive. So,
and then LSU and USC. Man, that was a surprise for me because I thought there was going to be a drop off of talent. That last year USC played defense against a baby, but they came out and smacked LSU right across the face. To me, USC had the most surprising game of the weekend, in my opinion.
Yeah, either that or Miami going down and just boat racing Florida.
I could expect that out of that though, because I wouldn't really getting heavy Florida vibes anyway.
Well, I think it's more so with Miami. Miami's been like pushed high the past couple of years, and they always never quite do it. There was that one year, a couple of years ago, they were like 10-1 or something. They brought out the interception chain. Remember, it was a big, huge craze.
Oh yeah,
they just never really got it. But with a 12-team playoff and with Clemson and Florida State, kind of. Because I didn't see anything with Clemson that made me feel. I know they were playing Georgia. I know it's one of the best, if not the best, defense in the country. But still, it's like, come on, man! Like, none of this looks right. So I'm wondering if like the clock is ticking which is nuts to say, for Dabo at Clemson, because somebody got to come in there and be like, look, we need to use the portal. We're like 3 years behind now. We're not using the portal, and everybody else is. And I don't know. It's just it's crazy. But we'll probably talk a little college football, of course, throughout the season as we go. Of course, the main reason why we're here are the Carolina Panthers, and it's open mailbag. You can ask us questions while we're in before we get to our main topic. Steven asks, how worried are y'all about the other DE spot opposite of Clowney? I'm very concerned. I am too. Not so much. I'm more concerned about not knowing who's going to be that shows up, as opposed to going into a season expecting someone to be that dude and they don't show up. Like I believe in EJ's defensive scheme more than I do any one particular player, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, so. I mean, I agree with you. I think there's going to be a rotation of guys. I wrote about it this morning. I don't really see anybody from that group of DJ Johnson, Callihan, Chason, Iku, Leota really like going and certifying themselves as the guy until DJ Wanham comes back. So let's see. They'll throw a bunch of different guys out there. Dan's going to keep a close eye on the waiver wire. If any veteran free agents are out there, he's going to stick close to what he knows best in terms of just trying to bring in more competition. So I don't think they're done adding to that group. But I don't know that any of those guys are going to be the guy. It's going to have to be a by committee approach for the first 4 games. And you just hope that you can kind of do it well situationally. I would expect Evera to do that. I mean, he knows DJ Johnson. He's not a natural pass rusher. He's an edge setter. So when you need to set the edge, you got him in the game. You got him deployed. If you need to go after the passer, then maybe look at bringing in Callihan Chase on. I know he only has 5 sacks in 4 seasons, but that's what got him to the league. Maybe this is the best spot for him to kind of break through.
Yeah. Just guys are speaking right now to one of my keys to the victory, right? For the Carolina Panthers. Pass rush. We have to get a pass rush. Yep. We're playing against a team that, the Saints can be good this year, but their weak spot is the offensive line, especially on that right side. If we can figure out a way to get Trevor Penning on his heels, because, I mean, they drafted this guy and they thought that he would be, the saving grace for the offensive line, and he hasn't been. And then they drafted this past, draft. I can't even pronounce his name. Fuaga. Yeah. So this is his first year, rookie. He'll be playing left tackle. And so obviously everyone knows that the way you win games is to protect the quarterback so that way he can exploit a defense and coverage. If we can figure out how to get in Carr's face throughout the game, make it hard, make him uncomfortable, we'll give ourselves a shot. Because Trevor Penning, terrible. His preseason was terrible. You look at the PFF and just the grades that they're giving this guy. Like in preseason, you should be able to like really, make a statement, make a argument of why you were drafted, first pick, some years ago. Like given the snaps, it just doesn't really sit well in the sense that the Saints have really what it takes. And I think we kind of discussed this last week, as far as who our favorites are, to win the South. I think they have all the boxes checked outside of the offensive line. I think the offensive coordinator right now is coming into, his first year, right? Or no, was it last year his first year? No, this year is his first year. And then you have a bad offensive line. Everywhere else, you're good. And I think that's the reason why we give them that edge, because they are pretty solid in all the other positions. But in order for you to really make a statement in this league, you got to have a quarterback that can throw, and you got to be able to have an offensive line that can protect him. And so
I would also mention, like, Trevin Wallace is a guy that you don't think of in terms of bringing pressure, but you can simulate pressure from very different ways.
Yeah. It doesn't have to just be a 4-man rush. We would love for it to be a 4-man rush, right? So that way we have coverage back there. But if we dress these things up, you have guys coming off the slot, coming off the edge, different 4-man, you can have different 4-man pressures, right?
That's true.
And still have coverage. Now that goes with, you have to figure out what personnel you're going to have in there for that. But, one thing we are going to do is stop the run. I
do believe that. Yeah.
We definitely upgraded, in that department, from last year was a struggle for us. And the additions of Ashawn Robinson, like, that's huge. I think that's going to alleviate any doubt for, how, Shy Tuttle is going to play. Right. Because I feel like when you have other dogs around you, it just alleviates the pressure to perform. right? You're like, I can trust him to be able to make that play. I don't have to go over there and do too much.
Yeah, you play
stay in my lane, figure my gaps out, and whatever stunts that coach dials up, I'll be prepared for it. But whenever I think the additions there solidified the fact that we'll be able to stop the run. You said, with DJ, I'm playing the edge. He's more of a run stopper. I think that's perfect for him and what he's good at. So
I'm real curious. You guys mentioned the rookie Trevin Wallace and them maybe using him in certain packages or whatnot. I'm really interested in him. They had him mic'd up on Camp Confidential. I like this draft class. Like, I like their personality. Like, I like how they really feel like they're kind of the get after it type. Like, they seem very confident in their abilities, and they seem like they know why they're here. Like, the whole thing with Dan Morgan saying to us, I want dogs, I want guys to represent this, and they're a certain way. It feels like the ones he selected understand that. It's not something they have to be taught. It's just how they normally play or normally go about life. And that's the kind of thing you need to kind of start the building blocks to kind of flush out what's been here the past couple of years, different regimes, different ideas, different mentalities, and bring in like a unifying thing. And I was watching Camp Confidential. The second episode came out in the middle of the afternoon, like Monday, and I watched it. And it was a Dave Canales episode to me. It was like the first one felt like it was a Dan Morgan type episode where you kind of seeing behind the scenes how he was getting to these players and stuff. This one was more about like Dave Canales and how he's wired and how the players are gravitating to him and everything else. And I liked the scene. I was going to go get it, but the scene where I guess it's routine for him, where he'll go up into the box or whatever and just kind of write out the first drive. Yeah, and just kind of envision it in his head. Because I'm wired the same way. Like, I'm a visual type person. I have to see it and kind of I have to either get my hands on it or like see it or to understand it better. And it feels like he's the same way, where he wants to feel the grass. He wants to feel the wind blowing while it's going on. He wants to envision this scenario or that scenario. And it's just refreshing. It's so refreshing just to see somebody that's so in love with their craft be involved with this team. So I think that's made it where I'm super excited about this year. The past 3 or 4 years have made me want to temper that excitement, and I hate that feeling. I don't know if Panther fans are going through that right now, where you're like, this feels like the way we should have felt last year, but it feels like they actually did it right in terms of the recipe. Why are we always talking about food on the show? But
hungry.
We left out the Crisco or whatever last year, and the whole thing just tasted like horrible. But this year we remembered the Crisco, and it put everything together. Like it bonded everything.
Frying chicken and pork chops. I hear you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Like so it's like now it's like, let's see what we got. Let's put it on the table, see if it tastes good. So
thing I noticed about Dave, just when I've been at practice and just seeing some of these behind the scenes things, is he's very detail oriented. We've heard about this all the way going back to last year when he was with Tampa Bay, the hiring process. And I don't think a lot of people really understand what being detail oriented means. Like, yes, you can coach certain teaching points and really hone it in, but you also have to explain to some of these guys why you're doing certain things. Like the previous coaching staffs, you might be teaching something, but you're not explaining the why behind it. Dave does that. And I think that's what really helps these players not only understand what they're doing, but it gives them more of an incentive to really kind of go after that, or maybe even do stuff on the side or after practice and work on those certain things, because they know that, hey, if I'm doing this, it's going to help me do this, this, and this. Whereas if you're just going through a drill just to do the drill, you can kind of get a little lethargic doing some of those things. So I think that explaining for Dave is what really kind of helps resonate the message, with some of those players.
What you're talking about is intentional reps, right? Yeah. When you're having intentional reps, you're basically putting yourself in situations that will happen. You don't know when they'll happen, but if you understand the formalities of why you're setting the edge, right? If you understand why you're doing that and you're getting the reps in practice of experiencing setting the edge, you can't just show up on game day and do it. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's just an intentional person. The details, when you talk about the people that are detail oriented, they center themselves around intention, because you think about it, is him being a head coach without being intentional with his time, he doesn't get to tap into, the personal level that he has with each individual person he comes in contact with, which makes him the coach that he is, meeting people where they are, all the things that we've been talking about. Everyone that comes in contact with him, they say, man, having a conversation with him is like he's like, I'm the only person in the room.
You said
right?
that when you first yeah.
And so these types of things is all about like the intentionality of the experience. He's going up into the press box before a game. He wants to walk, like there's coaches that walk the grass before a game, right? To feel it, to touch it, to be there in the experience. Like the intentionality of not just letting these opportunities go by without, because think about it. He's getting closer to what the players are going to be experiencing by doing all this. So like being in their shoes as much as possible, feeling what they're feeling, understanding kind of what they're seeing when it's third quarter and we might be down by 10, like that feeling of knowing what they're experiencing and being able to see things from a bird's eye view before a game and having this like this aha moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? Like, just I love the intentionality of not missing an opportunity and just maximizing everything.
It reminds me of like my college days when I had this really challenging calculus class, and I was like really struggling with it. I'm terrible at advanced math. You're talking about basic math. I'm like great at it. I'm good with football.
Same.
Get the advanced stuff. I'm like, how do you put this formula on the board? You say this plus this equals this. And then you just say, and I ask you how, and you're just like, because it just does. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Or some coaches around the league, that's how they teach things. They're like, well, if you do this, it's just going to make you better. And there's got to be that reasoning behind it of how did you get to this is going to make you better. Canales shows his work. He explains it, and that's how you get the results that you're going to get with these guys' development.
Let me ask both of you guys, because you both played more organized sports than I did. Did you ever play for a coach that was close to your age?
No, not really.
Or like a younger coach?
Most of the only one that I had was a positional coach, and not going to say names, but like it wasn't the greatest coach out there. But yeah, I mean, most of my coaches were older.
I'm just curious how that applies to like with this and veterans and Coach Canales, because Canales is what, I don't know, early 40s, early 40s.
I think we're going through a time of just a transition, right? There's a shift happening where generations, like our generation, we were used to the adult being someone of stature, right? Experience, wisdom, but because that's what we grew up in, like structure in the sense of, why can't I do that? Because I said no, and no means no, right? I don't need to explain nothing to you. I don't need to explain nothing to you. But nor was there a lot of resources for us to even think to ourselves, oh, the answer is I can find out for myself. And so now we're in this day and age where we can YouTube, Google, do all these things to find out information. And so we know different experiences. Like, oh, wait a minute. You can't just talk to me like that. Because I've seen other coaches on YouTube talk to their coaches differently. So why are you talking to me this way? So like there's this whole like, what's the word? Can of worms.
Like a shift. There's a shift going on.
People are experiencing and coming to realize that like the self-awareness, right? Like these kids have way more self-awareness than we did growing up because they have way more resources to pick up things, to understand what it is that they do and don't like. Now you have the guys coming from college saying, I got to choose where I wanted to go to college 4 times. So like, you're not going to tell me, you're not going to sit up here and tell me that I have to do this. You're not going to sit up here and tell me that we're going to do 2-a-days.
See,
there's no such thing as that.
Y'all gonna make me sound like the old man on the porch screaming at the clouds here, because I'm like, I think they know too much. I think they know too much. That's the problem. But they think they know everything.
And that's why these younger coaches tend to have success earlier in their tenures, because these players are so curious as to why are we doing these drills? Why are we doing this meeting? Why are we doing it this way? Where before it was just like, we're just going to go with it. And now you're almost kind of challenging the staff. And sometimes, I don't know this from experience, but I'm assuming that sometimes by challenging the staff, say, why do we do it this way? They may be like, you know what? Maybe we should do it a different way.
It's accountability. Because one of the things too, I actually just realized, like, part of my like off-season workouts, I would go somewhere to, if I'm in California working out, if I'm in Miami working out, Arizona working out, whoever is training me, I always question them. Every single thing that we did, I'm like, why are we doing this? I want to know why. Tell me why. And now neurologically, I can get behind this. And if you are here in your workout, then you'll be a beast in your workout.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. That totally.
And so when you are able to connect the dots mentally to the physical, that's what makes perfect sense in the world, right? I just said that out loud, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So when a kid, so when you have guys nowadays, that's like the regular of questioning, getting the answer. Now you're building trust, right? And so once you trust the coach, you know, it's sky's the limit from that point. Now you're playing for the coach in a different demeanor. Now you're learning how to play for other guys because you know that.
Now you become like
an actual team.
Yeah, like he's a teammate now. And now you're at the point of the season where it's like you've gone through all the process, you've uploaded all this stuff, you've hit each other as much times as you can. Now it's just a matter of winning or losing. And if you win, it reinforces everything that you just went through over the past couple of months, this new regime, everything, as like, yo, this is right. This makes sense. This works. Look at it. We just came away with a victory. How many times did that happen last year? So I'm looking forward to seeing how they react to it, because it did feel like in the preseason, especially game 3, when we got the chance to see the actual offense out there, it just looks different. It just looks completely different than last year. So I'm really excited to see that against the Saints team where we've said we kind of feel like they're starting to age out a little bit. They've been kicking that salary cap can down the road for like, it feels like a decade. And it feels like maybe it's starting to catch up a little bit with age and everything. Let's just stay on the 3 keys to victory. Tues was pass rush. Schuyler, what's your key to a Panther victory on Sunday?
It's preventing the pass rush. So I know it's kind of cliche. Look, I know we can get into the cornerback situation and off the outside linebacker spot. You know, we could talk all the live long day about those two things. But last year, what was the biggest problem? The offensive line. And we haven't seen more than one drive out of the starters yet. That's a group that has been kind of mixed and matched all offseason, or excuse me, all preseason. Guys been injured, bumped up. You know, Damian Lewis had a shoulder thing there for a while. Robert Hunt was kind of in and out for like a day. Corbett's, in there for the first time at center. So you just don't know what it's going to look like in week 1 when you're actually having to go out there for every single drive. And to me, if I'm Dan Morgan, if I'm Dave Canales, it's the position unit I'm most excited about, but I'm also the most worried about, because I just spent a boatload of money bringing in 2 guys in Lewis and Hunt, and they better sure as hell work out, because if not, you're in deep, you know what. So I think there's some good and bad there, but I think they're probably just excited to see what they can do from a run game perspective, from a pass protection perspective, and kind of build off of that. This, again, it's not going to be a finish or a perfect product week 1. They're going to look much better by week 4, 5, 6, and 7 than they are right now. But this gives you the starting point. Where are you going to be at with this group? Because we have no idea. You're just hoping that it's light years better than what it was at week 17 last year when they were still struggling. So to me, it starts and ends with the protection, because that was the number 1 issue last year. And if it's still an issue, even though you paid $154 million to 2 guys, then I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do then.
I think some of that's going to get corrected by just what Dave Canales has done with Bryce Young in terms of getting the ball out quicker. So, like, getting the ball out quicker is going to make any O-line look much, much better. Whereas last year, he was kind of holding the ball, waiting for guys to get open, and it was putting the O-line in spots where, real talk, you can go back and watch some of the highlights, some of those games from last year, and it looks like sometimes the O-line they don't know where Bryce is, like behind them. Like, they don't know if he went all the way back, if he stepped up, if he ran out bootleg. Like, they don't know where he's at. So a lot of times they're getting pushed into him because he still has the ball. that preseason game 3, it felt like the ball's going to really get out in less than 3 seconds. And it was a weird feeling to see Bryce throwing to receivers for the Panthers that were open. Like they were literally standing there wide open, waiting on the ball. Like there's no one around. Like there was one to Adam Thielen, and it was like no one around him. I'm like, he's in the middle of the field. Like
one thing about Bryce, and I don't know if you guys picked up on it or anything, but it felt like he was going through his reads much quicker than he was a year ago. And sometimes you got to be careful. You don't want to move off too quickly off a guy because if, something may happen, he may be open. But it felt like last year there was times where he wasn't staring down a receiver, but he was going too long throughout his progressions to where he just ran out of time.
Almost like he was seeing what was in front of him, but it was like in Spanish, like, and he don't speak Spanish, so it's like I kind of know some of the words, but I don't know how to actually fluently do this. This year, he picked up one of those. What is it? The Rosetta Stone or whatever teaches you how to speak a different language in like a week and a half.
Me not speak English. Wait, I speak English.
He just said we're going to Spain. Okay, I can agree with that. For me, so Stu had pass rush. We got to have a pass rush coming from somewhere. O-line from Schuyler, which I think we all are in agreement of. I'm going to go with the whole. We were already on the run the ball, stop the run mantra, and we've been there on Bleav in Panthers. It's one of our things. I'm going to go for the run side. For the Panthers, we got to get over 100 yards rushing in this football game, and we need to do it in maybe more than that, maybe 150. Between the 3, Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, and I don't know who the third back's going to be, but Sanders and Hubbard will be the 2 guys carrying the rock most of the time on Sunday. I went and found a clip from yesterday from Dave Canales talking about this. It sounds like David Newton asking the question about how they're going to do this in terms of running back by committee or featured back. And I want to get your comments on this, Stu, because you've actually been in offenses where you've been featured as both, as someone that's sharing the rock and then also someone who's been the main running back. And I wanted to talk more about what's the mentality for the running back going into that those 2 situations. But here's Dave Canales talking to the media about what he plans to do with the running back position on Sunday and going forward, courtesy of the Carolina Panthers YouTube channel.
Are you the type that wants to use one guy to go or multiple split carries? What is how do you want to approach that at running?
Yeah, there's value to both. So just talking to running backs over the years, there's value to letting a guy be out there and get the rhythm to really start breathing, start seeing the runs, pressing it, feeling how the line's blocking on that day, And then there's a flip side of it where you have 2 really good backs and you just rotate them through, And if a guy has a couple of plays stacked together and has a nice long run, then you can get the other guy and you have fresh legs to be able to attack it that way. That's really the approach that we would hope for to keep, Miles and Chuba just continuing to spot each other as we go through it. And of course, third downs as well, counting on those guys with protection and what they can do in the pass game. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So my thing is between the 2 of them, I want to get up to 120, 135 yards on the ground. And I want it in a manner where we do it from the very beginning, that they understand we're going to run the football. We are a run-first team, run the ball, stop the run. I wanted to ask, though, before we got off of it, having the beauty of having all-time leading rusher and Jonathan Stewart on the panels, that we can ask him direct questions like this because you were actually in these situations. Pretty much your Panther career, you kind of shared a backfield, whether it was with D'Angelo, or later on with Christian McCaffrey. Even 2015, it was like Fozzie Whitaker back there,
Mike
Tolbert.
Yeah.
So you're used to sharing the carries. Give me the pros and cons with sharing a backfield, as opposed to say like maybe. Well, I'm sure you probably did it in college too at Oregon, a little bit in terms of rotating it out. So maybe not since high school, maybe where you might have been like the featured back where you're getting a whole bunch of carries and like you don't have to really share it with somebody else. Give me the difference for you in terms of preparation, knowing that you're going to a game where, all right, I'm going to probably get about 15 carries. C-Max will get about 15 carries, see how it goes slow the game, or you and D'Angelo Williams. Like, how did you guys, because towards the end there, I forgot the nickname they gave you guys. Was it wasn't Smash and Dash?
Smash and Dash.
Was Smash and Dash? Yeah.
Double Trouble.
Double Trouble. That's what it was. Yeah. Double Trouble. And you guys really had it humming for a bit. To this day, I think you're still the only backfield where you both had 1,100 yards each in the same season, which is ridiculous now that I said that out loud. What was your mentality going into this game?
Yeah, my mentality was no matter what, you got to eat. right? Whether it's 1 carry, 2 carries, 3 carries, it's easier to eat when you have, double-digit carries. And that was always the mentality of the running back room. And, me and D'Angelo did a great job of just understanding, and literally watching the game and basically saying, "Oh, he's looking tired." If he looks at me a certain way coming off the sideline, getting up from the huddle or getting up from the ground, I know when to go in. So basically, our mentality was, if we want to run the ball, let's give him no excuses to not call a run play. And so fresh legs is always the best legs. So if we have a guy go 2 runs over 20 or 15, like the mentality is like he might be coming out, right? Because he's giving everything he has on every single play, no matter what. Because the truth is some guys, that are the main feature guy. It's hard to sustain those runs in a drive. You might the offensive line might open the Red Sea, right? And you might not have enough juice, and that's a missed opportunity. And so that's kind of how we viewed it, when we were sharing the load in the backfield. And same with Christian, right? Like every time you get the ball, every time you get an opportunity, you have to try to eat, because you might not know when your next opportunity is going to, come around. And so that would be the con, right? The con is I might have limited opportunities. And everybody at the end of the day, if you're a running back, if you're a ball carrier, you want to make a difference. You want to be a difference maker. And so you have to take those reps and make the most out of them. And when you are the guy that's a feature, you can bank on the fact that you'll get more reps. It's a common sense, statement. But when you are the guy that's, bringing in the game, if you're up by 10 points in the fourth quarter and you have the 4-minute drill, that was the best time, to be on the field if you're a running back, because now you get to run out the clock, right? So if you're the guy that's the feature back, you're going to take all those carries. But if you are sharing the load, now as a team, you have 2 fresh guys that are basically going hand in hand, knowing that, both of them aren't going to be tired in the game. That's havoc for a defense. These guys are coming in, like getting a water break, a quick breather, and we're out here gassed. So we have to stop them. That's something that you don't want to do that, right? But I will say one thing that I would like to see is a mixture of runs for both, Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. We know that they're both different types of runners. I don't want to see play specific runs for, Chuba, and play specific runs for Sanders.
Yeah.
I want to see the same type of runs, because then that gives a defense this whole thought process of we have to be on our P's and Q's for anything. Like, just because one guy's coming in, one guy's going out, doesn't mean that we can reset ourselves to some type of, commitment to a certain play or to a certain scheme. Because that's one thing that was really nice for me and D'Angelo is we ran the same plays. We ran, low power. We ran, the zone schemes. We ran the gap schemes, and we were able to basically be the same person in the backfield on every single play, but we both offered different results. Like D'Angelo could take a draw to the house if you blink, what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of different things. There's the same mentality with, Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard is they both can do the same things, but they obviously are different types of backs. So just don't call the plays as if they are, though. That's what I'm really saying.
You know what? I'm gonna I believe in Miles Sanders.
Do you believe?
I believe in him. I feel like everyone came down on him last year. I think we were one of the only podcasts really that kind of pointed out early in the year that he was dealing with a hip injury or something in preseason, and then went into the season with it and just never really looked right the entire year. Granted, the offensive line was they were trash like the whole year. So a lot of that came from that too. But I'm wondering if Miles is actually what we thought he was when we signed him, and we're about to see that because Dave Canales is about to unleash that. Like he got here and was like, oh, you got Miles Sanders here. Okay. Oh, you got Chuba Hubbard here. We got some stuff to work with. We ain't got to worry so much about plugging in a new running back or whatever. You already have two right here that are pretty good. But let's go get this Brooks kid from Texas too and round this whole thing out and go from there. Well, so
I don't think you're ever going to see, I mean, I should say ever, but I think the days of having the workhorse in the backfield are way gone.
The like, Emmitt Smith, the Barry Sanders, the
Adrian Peterson's,
the Derrick Henry. He might be one of the last of a dying breed, really, because that's filtered all the way down to high school too, where I do a lot of high school, and it's really by committee. It'll be, if you're good, you'll have 2 or 3 running backs that you can run out there.
There's 2 components to it because
Stu's muted. Oh, there you go.
My bad.
There's 2 components to it because there's one, you have a pitch count. It's like pitchers now in baseball. 50 years ago, they'd throw complete games and they'd pitch 2 days later. That ain't happening anymore. And it's the same thing with running backs. Like those guys take more hits than anybody on the offense outside of the offensive line, of course.
What's the average career for running backs? Like 3 years or something like that?
It used to be like 2.5. I don't know what it is now, but I mean, those guys take such a beating. You have to really be smart with how many, hits they take. And that's why they really kind of limit these guys in preseason and OTAs and all that stuff, because they need to save those hits. That's what we talk about with Christian all the time. And I think that's part of it. The other part of it is I don't really feel like you can truly lean on a defense nowadays with the amount of guys that defenses rotate in themselves, because they're rotating in guys more than ever too. And if they're having a fresh front 7, you're kind of going up against it with just one running back. Like I don't feel like you can really lean in the run game unless you have 2 quality backs.
Yeah. And 2, you do have to consider injuries. I remember one year, 2009, we played the Minnesota Vikings at Bank of America Stadium. Brett Favre, and and at that time the Vikings hadn't allowed a 100-yard rusher all season.
I remember that.
And D'Angelo got hurt sometime in the game, and because there's 2 guys that could carry the load if needed, right? And not carry the load for an entire season, out the gate, preseason, this is our feature back, boom. No, you have 2 backs. It'd be nice if you had 3, right? And so because you just don't know what chain of events might happen throughout a season, throughout a game. And I remember that was a game that I felt like I legitimately felt like I was in a zone. And sometimes certain players have it one day and certain players don't. Like there's many games where I didn't have it. I was like, I don't know. They're just not.
Did you know it at the time?
The defense is just glued to me. I don't know.
You knew it as it was happening, like real time, or it was like one of those after the game?
Yeah, like a little bit of man, they're just glued to me. Like whenever I'm in the game, and maybe the way I move, maybe it's so much different to where they're just glued to me in comparison to another back right now. So
you to have to if you're not working that well that day. I mean,
yeah.
But you have 2 quality backs, you're going to be in a much better position to play more winning football and meaningful football when the colder months arrive. Because I'm sure, I don't know, Stu, if you've ever been through this in the NFL, but like if you get to November and December and you're really one back offense, I mean that's tough.
Yeah. But I will say this though, running backs are built. I mean, the good ones.
Yeah.
We are built to take it on. Like, because you actually get stronger as the season goes and you get stronger as the game goes. And so for me, like a pro for a running back is if you are the feature back, you get an opportunity to showcase that.
Yeah.
You get the opportunity to showcase, hey, this man gets stronger as the season goes on, and I love it. Defenses are getting banged up, and he's just going in there and just delivering blows after blows. That's what I loved about November and December. Knowing that at this point in the season, those linebackers are starting to become a little bit inferior to contact and wearing them down. And so this is So to that statement, like I love November and December for that exact reason. Now, if you have two guys, it's even better. I'll say that.
And if you're dedicated to the run from start to finish, yeah, you're right. By November, December, some of these teams, especially the ones that aren't like in playoff contention, they ain't trying to hit somebody coming through the hole like in 20-degree weather. Like, nah, you're going through and get that 6 yards real quick.
Like, why so many people around the Panthers, like that, fans or whatever, they try to pit like it's Chuba. It's his job to lose, and Miles is trying to get it back. Like, and it's Chuba versus Miles. It's not Chuba versus Miles. There's no animosity between these two guys at all. They're brothers.
Yeah. I can't stand that about the media space sometimes. It's just there doesn't need to be contention just because there's two guys in the same room.
There's enough to eat. There's enough.
They can both coexist.
The only position where that really comes into play maybe is quarterback. There's only one of them.
Yeah, but even at the quarterback space, like
you're right,
those guys understand their role. That's the reason why football is the ultimate team sport. People that suck at football, they just don't have a team mentality. Like that might have the skill set, that might be athletic as all get out, but they suck at it. It's because they don't understand how to just like, hey, right now is not your turn. You gotta wait your turn. Wait your turn.
You're so right, and I hear that all the time from fans where they're like, oh, well, they try to pit players against each other. Like I see it right now, like in Cincinnati, where they're trying to pit Jamar Chase and T. Higgins against each other because they both want their money at the same time. No, they are
against the organization up top as far as why their paycheck ain't coming in the way it's supposed to be coming in.
And I'm sorry, Jamar ain't getting that money. I'm sorry, I can't see.
Let's talk to that quarterback.
Yeah, hey, you got some change? You want to give me a little money? Because I can't see Cincinnati paying a wide receiver $30 million a year. Like, even though he deserves it, he's proven he deserves it. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the league. But the conversation.
Hot take, he going next year?
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. It's the Bengals.
Because they definitely ain't going to the Super Bowl.
There's too many teams in front of them in the AFC. Like, I don't even know if they're going to win their division. Like I said, we didn't even pick them to win the AFC North. I think we picked Baltimore to win it. So
Jamar Chase going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs next year.
Oh gosh. That's a great segue to get into our biggest NFL storylines. And we picked the Saints to lose to the Carolina Panthers when we did our win-loss record stuff. So it's at home. We're looking to start off 1-0. We'll see what the Panthers do 1:00 p.m. Sunday on Fox. But moving over, our biggest NFL storylines to start this season as we get towards the end of the episode here. You guys can chime in the comment section below. What do you think the biggest storyline is going into the 2024 NFL season across the league? Schuyler, let's start off with yours. What do you think? What's the thing outside of Panther world that you're looking at the most in terms of the NFL season?
Well, I'm switching up on you last second because I told you in pre-show that I was going to go with something about the 49ers. But I'm going with the team that I grew up watching and adoring, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, obviously, I'm not a fan or anything anymore, but this is an interesting year for them because it feels like every year for the last, 4 or 5 years maybe, that this could be Mike Tomlin's year to finally have a losing season. And then if that happens, does that mean he's on the way out? And just personally speaking, I don't think you could ever fire Mike Tomlin unless he just completely craps the bed and they win 4 games because he is that good of a coach. Look at the talent that team has had in these recent years.
Yeah.
And I don't know that many coaches could get winning seasons with some of these teams. And that's not to say that they don't have star talent. They do. But they haven't had quarterback play. They haven't had consistent receiver play. They've had kind of up and down offensive line play. And now there's all this quarterback talk between Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. We've talked about it at length on this show. And I'm worried that they're going to go through this season. They're going to play both quarterbacks. Neither one of them are going to be the answer. They're going to go 7-11 or 7-10 or 8-9. It's his first ever losing season. And then the hot seat rumors talk. I don't know how you can fire Mike Tomlin.
I would be so mad if that happened. Let's say that scenario played out and all of a sudden he's on a hot seat. When it's the first year he's had a losing record. And how long has Mike Tomlin been coaching the Steelers? Like 20 years?
Yeah, since
maybe longer.
Almost 20 years, I think.
And all of a sudden he's on the hot seat after one season when you guys gave him small hands Kenny Pickett like 2 years ago to try to run this offense. Like, seriously, like what are we doing? Like, what are we talking about? And now he's got to rely on Russell Wilson, who's named the starter, but everyone's kind of has Russ kind of jumped that shark in terms of his career, like, because from all accounts it doesn't sound all that great.
Man, listen,
Justin Fields doesn't sound that good either right now.
Again, Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson had the same stats last year. Just different narratives, man.
Well, but they were down on Jalen last year too. Remember?
They were. And Jalen has more time. He's younger and all that. So that's why I'm saying the narrative, right?
Yeah,
it's just different narratives. And if Russell can do anything, he can win games. He's proven it. He's proven it in his track record. Like, let's not treat this man like he's not, a Super Bowl champion.
I mean, I hated Russell Wilson for years just because he was a winner.
Yeah, I didn't like him when he was with Broncos.
I didn't like him at all. I didn't like him there, and definitely didn't like him in Seattle.
Because he was playing for the Broncos.
Stu, because he's got his
personal issue there.
Product out there.
Yeah, man, this is with Bo Nix, man. Look, this is different because Bo Nix is blood by Duck, so I have no feelings there. Yeah, I still don't mess with the Broncos.
I guess you could be conflicted with that there. And then, of course, I guess Justin Fields was going to be the plan B or the down the road plan, I guess, if it panned out or whatever. But again, even if it blows up in their face and neither one of them are like the future or whatever for Pittsburgh or the near future, they only spent like $1 million or something total, like on both of them, like no draft picks, nothing. They're basically on free tryouts at this point. So what do you got to lose, Pittsburgh? So that's
the way the Steelers run their organization. The Rooneys have been very, very loyal to coaches, and if you go back over the years, they've had like some weird stat where they've had like only 4 coaches in the last 3 coaches. Yeah,
Chuck Noll,
Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin over the last how many years?
Like 50 plus years, because Chuck Noll was like the 60s, 70s. So
I don't think that even a losing season would get him fired. I just think it would start sparking this nonsense that Mike Tomlin's not as good of a coach as everyone says he is. And I think that's ridiculous. I think he's, quite honestly, maybe the best coach in the NFL right now, outside of Andy Reid.
I'd put him top 5, like definitely put him top 5. Like, let's do that. Top 5 NFL coaches going into the 2024 season off the top of our heads. Andy Reid, Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Would you put a
Harbaugh maybe?
John Harbaugh. Ravens.
Yeah.
Can you put Jim in there yet? Or you got to give him another season? We've seen it before. I don't think he's ever had a losing record.
He needs to recalibrate himself.
All right, so John Harbaugh, Sean McVay,
Andy Reid. I don't know if he's top 5 yet.
Who?
Oh, wait, no, Kyle Shanahan is definitely. Listen, if we go wins and losses, he's definitely.
I mean, he's been in the Super Bowl,
but as far as the Super Bowl stuff, like we know what we know, right? But let's not act like this man is not a genius.
I was gonna say he's either 5 or 6, but
he's somewhere. I think you put Shanahan. He's took the 49ers Super Bowl twice,
bro. Like
5 years.
People are copying him. He's a like walking footprint.
Who's
of explosive offense?
Who's the coach for the Bills? Our guy,
McDermott.
Yeah.
Would you put him in top 5?
I'd have Shanahan over McDermott.
Are there top 5? Because we're sort of struggling trying to figure out who's the top 5 coaches in the NFL. Would you put like a Mike McDonald in there? Miami?
No.
I'll tell you this. After this year, I feel like a lot of things are going to shake up as far as coaching.
Yeah.
Like as far as who we view as like good coaches.
Yeah, because the league is changing too in terms of like somebody said it. I think it was Marcus Spears. I heard it on Get Up yesterday where he was like, the league right now is just like basketball on grass. Like literally like the way these athletes are coming out. You got defensive tackles coming out of the NFL. We did it when we did the draft show last year, and Stu was going through the 40s for like defensive ends or whatever it was, and they were running like 4.3, 4.4, 4.35, 4.3, and they're like 275 or whatever. It's a bunch of Julius Peppers running around right now in 2024. Stu, give me yours. Biggest NFL storyline going into the 2024 season.
The biggest storyline here for the 2024 football season is Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears.
That's a good one.
These boys is primed and ready to go out here and shake up the whole league, in my opinion, especially in the NFC. We're so high on the Packers right now, but Chicago Bears, I mean, they were very active this offseason. They've been active the last 2 years.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So the way Ryan Poles has basically outfitted this new roster is amazing. I mean, you got Keenan Allen at receiver, right?
Yep.
Offseason move. And then you got DJ Moore at receiver.
Dang it.
Right? Then you got Rome Odunze.
Oh man.
Oh. And then you got Komet. Is that how you say his name?
The tight end? Yeah.
Komet. Tight end.
He's good.
He's good. And then the running game, bro. DeAndre
Swift, yep.
Oh man, I forgot they got Swift.
Dog.
Yo, what are they doing?
Totally a dog. He's a dog. Just his mindset as a runner. He's a dog. Okay. The only thing that I will say that's holding them back could be on the defensive side of the ball, right?
Which is wild to say for Chicago. Like that's nuts.
That's not their DNA, right?
Yeah.
Their DNA is usually typically, hey, we're gonna play some defense at least.
Kick some field goals, get out of here.
But Caleb Williams is in a situation of a lifetime. We saw last year what CJ Stroud did with the Houston Texans. This is an opportunity that I think no rookie quarterback has ever walked into. You have a room full of receivers that have a lot of promise. You have two proven guys, and you have one that's basically walking into a situation where he gets to be mentored by in my opinion, one of the best receivers to catch the ball in Keenan, right? Because I mean, possession guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I get open? Like what are all the little things that you do to get open, and how do you position yourself to catch the hard ball, right? DJ Moore, right? Explosive plays, just waiting to happen. And then you got Roman Dunze, who basically can do all of those things.
Yep.
And he's getting a chance to learn and be under the wing of these two guys.
2,000-yard receivers. You got Caleb's walking into a situation where he's got 2,000-yard receivers and a top 10 wide receiver rookie. The Chicago Bears is a nuclear weapon waiting to happen. That's nuts. I like that one too, because now all of a sudden the NFC North becomes maybe the toughest division in the NFC. If you look at it, between Chicago, Green Bay, we haven't given Detroit enough shine, and we left last season thinking that it was Detroit's to lose pretty much, and now you got all that going on. Minnesota is only getting pushed back because we don't really know what. It's Sam Darnold at quarterback, so we don't really know. We've
still got Justin Jefferson.
We do, and he has proven
Justin Jefferson can help
throwing it to him.
Justin can throw some losses some ways to some teams. Okay,
if anybody deserved $30 million a year at wide receiver, it was Justin Jefferson, and he got that bag. So
yes,
we'll keep an eye on NFC North. So yours was the Bears. That's a good one. I'm going with the obvious. What happens? Not even if. What happens when the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat and have won their third world championship in 4 years, third in a row? What happens to the legacy of not only Pat Mahomes, but Andy Reid? Because you're now talking about something that no one's ever done in the NFL over 100 years. In the Super Bowl era, over 60 plus or 50 plus Super Bowls, no one's ever won three. And it reminded me of, you remember Tecmo Bowl, the video game back in the day? The Super Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl, whatever it was, the sequel to it. I used to play it with my buddies all the time, and it had like this, almost like this fantasy kind of setting where you could build your own team and that kind of stuff. But to get to it, it was hidden in the game. The only way you could get to it is that you had to go through the game as a one player and actually three-peat. Like if you three-peated, then it unlocked this stuff in the game where you could start building your own players and making your own stats and stuff like that. And I always thought it was real cool because they were making it like no one's ever going to do this. Like, because each time you did it, it was harder and harder. The Chiefs might be the most equipped team in my lifetime to three-peat because they got better. Last year, remember last year that the O-line was a mess.
The defense is basically the same, right? Well, no, they got rid of the DB. Who they got rid of?
Well, Chris Jones is still there on the line, and the defense held them together last year. Remember all the wide receivers dropping footballs last year for Kansas City? Like, they were having issues. What do they do? They go out, they draft the fastest wide receiver in the draft, Xavier Worthy. I think they patched up the defense.
They're going to stretch the field.
They're going to stretch the field. Pat Mahomes out here throwing behind the back passes in preseason. Like, they ain't worried, man. They ain't worried. They are not.
How do you do that right here, man? You ran the wrong route.
Yeah, they're not concerned.
Catch it too.
And then when asked, they act like it wasn't a big deal. Yes, it is.
It was Snead that they lost this offseason. That might be the only guy on defense.
So why not Kansas City? Like, I mean, they've proven they can put it together by the end of the year. And last year they proved they can win on the road because that was their knock in the playoffs was that, all these games were home games or whatever. Mm-hmm. They went on the road last year and did it. So it's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do with this because Pat Mahomes is entering Michael Jordan territory, like in the 90s, where it's like, he ain't going to lose unless he don't want to play or he ain't been playing for like 18 months and decided, oh, you know what, I'm going to pick up the ball, come back. Like if Pat Mahomes decided to quit and go play like tennis for like a year and then come back like in the middle of the season, that's how you beat him. Like that's where he's at like right now. Like Pat Mahomes has to beat Pat Mahomes in my opinion. I'm done doubting him. I'm done doubting the Chiefs. I'm done doubting Andy Reid. I hope Taylor Swift Mania Part 2 sweeps over the country and we get all out all over again because they're still together. I was thinking maybe they wouldn't last through the offseason, but apparently they're still together. So
held on strong, man.
I think her world tour is over. So you're going to see even more Taylor Swift going into this season. So it's just a big soap opera with them, and they handle it so well. I'm going with Chiefs three-peat. Can the Chiefs actually do what no one has ever done and three-peat in the NFL? And if they do, does that leapfrog Pat Mahomes over Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time? And does that make Andy Reid leapfrog Bill Belichick as the greatest NFL coach of all time? Because their resumes at that point,
like I said before, I don't think you can completely judge something like that until they're done.
Until they're done with their careers.
Until they're done with their careers, yeah.
But that's my point.
I will say that
the great ones you do it in the middle of their career. Like they were calling Jordan the greatest. He wasn't done playing. He was driving past a statue of himself every day on the way to work. You know, like that kind of thing.
I think you can get on a run and win some Super Bowls with some really good teams, some really good players. And as we saw with Belichick in New England, as soon as he lost Tom, like New England kind of went downhill. And obviously he's going to be there for the duration of Mahomes' career. I mean, he's only 28, but I mean, who knows what happens with Kansas City? Like, does this come to an end at some point? They can't afford guys. Like, I mean, who knows? I think he's really, really close. I do think so, but I just can't.
He's already
check the stat line.
He's already probably
90. So Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, 96 games in, right? Completion percentage. Patrick Mahomes 66, Tom Brady 61. Passing yards. Patrick Mahomes 28,000, Tom Brady 21,000. Yards per attempt 7.9. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady 7. Passing touchdowns. This is this is insane. Patrick Mahomes 219. Tom Brady 147.
Wow.
Interceptions. Patrick Mahomes 63. Tom Brady 78. Quarterback rating. Patrick Mahomes 103. Tom Brady 88.
Damn.
Yeah, bro.
Wow.
Championships within 96 games. 3 championships each. Pro Bowls. Patrick Mahomes 6. Tom Brady 3. All pros 3 for Patrick Mahomes, 1 for Tom Brady. I mean, the list goes on, bro.
And someone mentioned, he needs at least 7 rings to surpass Brady. That's the Bill Russell Jordan debate. Bill Russell has 11 rings, but we never call him the greatest of all time. Like, we're seeing Pat Mahomes do things we've never seen a player do before.
Yeah, he's revolutionizing the game.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it trickle down college and high school where he's starting to influence younger kids, like the way they actually play quarterback, the way they actually view the field and scramble and that kind. You're seeing it with Caleb Williams a little bit. He's kind of, if you squint your eyes a little bit, you kind of see it.
Yeah, you see the resemblance.
Yeah. So that's nuts.
So this would be 4. This would be 4 championships for him, right?
Yeah, 4 in 6 years or something like that. It's 4 6 years.
Hey, it don't even matter if he won this year. He could quit, and I'd be like, you know what?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
he could like what if. I mean, he's the reason why they are that good.
We're sitting there questioning why we're even playing the season. Like that's where we've gotten to. Like in the NFL, like he's in a stacked AFC. Like the AFC is so stacked, and we don't care. We're just
if he wins the Super Bowl this year, my opinion is like
just crown him.
Just give him. Just give him an NFL logo, like Jumpman.
Give him this Jumpman logo. Because at this point, it's like, what do you do? Like he's entering his peak right now
as we speak. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh my Lord,
not at all.
The league just has to hope Andy Reid retires. I think that's the key. Like whenever Andy Reid retires, there might be a little gap. Because even with Tom Brady, he won the first 3. Then he didn't even get to Super Bowl for like 9 years or something. And then he went back for like 2 or 3 more times to get to 7.
Yeah.
Pat's just like, forget that. Let's go every year.
I'm going every year.
Let's go every year.
But I will say this, the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams, they are about to create that same type of energy. I'm telling you. It depends on the offensive line. I don't know how the offensive line holding up. Let's check this PFF right quick before I get it.
Bears Chiefs Super Bowl. And I think Schuyler might have
the PFF. The PFF offensive line looking all right. They ain't looking terrible.
Shout out to them as we're getting out here because I just saw on the Bleav newsletter, it came in my email that there's a new PFF Bleav podcast that they're doing where they'll be able to use their insights and do previews each week. So shout out to them to join the Bleav family. Yeah, that'd be good. Schuyler, I think he just got his microphone because he was waiting on a microphone from FedEx. So he's been waiting patiently all morning. Of course, it comes at the very end of the show. So I think that's what's going on with Schuyler. We're going to go ahead and hop out of here. This is our regular time for the season going forward, Tuesday, 10:30 live here on YouTube and across all major podcast platforms. The audio for this will be available here shortly. We'll recap Panthers Saints. We'll get into their week 2 matchup. We'll go through pros and cons, things we saw. We'll hit up press conference, everything you come to expect from us over the course of the season. Shout out to everybody. We've had a pretty large live audience that came in this morning. So shout out to everybody that came in and saw us on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook Watch, and on the Bleav in Panthers Instagram. Go follow us on our socials for more stuff. We're going to try to put more stuff out during the season, social media-wise for you guys, little tidbits and things like that. So definitely follow us there. Bleav in Panthers on Twitter and Bleav in Carolina Panthers on Instagram and Facebook. So for Schuyler Callihan and Jonathan Stewart, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by Bet Online. Let's go get a victory and have a victory Tuesday next week when we see
Bryce Young about to ball out.
285, 3 touchdowns. I'm gonna give him a rushing score too. He gonna show out. They're gonna be talking about Bryce Young on Monday.
Yes, sir.
I believe it. I do believe it. Dion,
do you believe?
Get us out of here. All right, we done. We'll see y'all next week.